I would have preferred if it was just pulling off his head. Oof. This is the S.H.Figuarts of Kurosaki Ichigo Tensa Zangetsu version. Packaging is pretty similar to what we've seen with other S.H.Figuarts figures, but we're still going to talk about it. So we've got a little slash kind of look going on here, which reveals the windows, which I think is pretty nice. Got little splashes there of the ink, which looks nice. And then, of course, you've got a figure, like I said, in the window. So you can see Ichigo right there in that power-up uniform he's wearing. And then some of his alternate faceplates. His sword is not visible directly here. Maybe behind, but no, can't see it. And then you got portrait of the figure there. Otherwise, it's just his name and other kind of iconography down there with the latest arc of the logo of Bleach there. And then you've got the side like so, which is a nice pose. And then black and orange. I really like the black and orange colorway going on this box. It looks really good. The back just shows you a few poses of the figure in action. Personally, I'm already kind of seeing that this overcoat, let's call it the overcoat, I would prefer would have been soft fabric, but we'll see once we actually get it out of the box. This is the other side. The top just has his logo, Ichigo Kurosaki, and then again Kurosaki Ichigo at the bottom, or Ichigo Kurosaki. So that's the packaging, and this is Kurosaki Ichigo out of the box, the first S.H.Figuarts Bleach figure. Now, before we get into that, I just want to quickly talk about the instruction sheets. Normally, you do get one, or used to in the previous S.H.Figuarts, but with this one, it's all on the panels of the box. I didn't open the other side, and I don't really like that. Personally, I'd rather get the separate sheet because opening the panels means the box doesn't sit nice and flush on your shelf or in storage. I don't know, I just prefer having the separate sheet, so a little bit disappointed with that. Not the end of the world, but just something I wanted to point out. Now I'm going to talk about the option parts, then we'll go into the figure. Please do jump ahead if you want to see the figure directly. So starting with the hands, you've got the fists already applied to the figure. Pretty standard, really. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail when we get to the figure. Now I'll show you the next pair of hands. So this is going to be slightly relaxed hands. As you can see here, I'm going to show you one in a little bit closer detail because he's got a slightly different outfit. He's got the white stripes or straps. I'm not even sure if they're actual straps or anything now. I can't remember how this outfit works, but they are around the outside of the palm and then white inner palms or gray inner palms. And that's going to be the same across all hands. I'm just going to show you the pair of hands like so. They're not bad. Pretty simple, standard stuff. Then he's got the kind of magic hands. I like to call them magic hands, or maybe not quite spirit fingers, but yeah, you got those same sort of effect and paint going on there. Not jet black on the backside, just kind of a dark black. And then you've got additional fists. Not quite fists, but these are going to be to hold, of course, onto his Zangetsu. What's it called again? Zanpakuto, right? That's the word for it. So I'm going to show you that first before I show you how to attach it. And this is the bit where, honestly, I'm not super sold on this. It looks fine, but let's talk about it. So the Zanpakuto itself looks nice. It's very nice, actually, I would say. It doesn't look anything odd, you might say. It doesn't look odd at all. And then the handle looks pretty good as well. Let's kind of get that into a little bit more detail. The handle looks great with the kind of black strap and the red on there as well. It looks very nice. Looks very good indeed. I really do love the fact that they've got the real chain links. I always love that. If a sword uses chain links, then I love the fact that if figures use real links. That just always pleases me. So that's very nice to see for sure. And then we've got the guard. So let's try and get the guard focused in there. So I really like his guard. I think his guard is supposed to be a little bit like a manji symbol. I'm not 100% sure. The guard looks fine as well, but it is a little bit sensitive in that if you're starting to feed this into the hand or playing around with it, then because you can see it's not attached to anything right here, for example, then sometimes this can misalign. I don't want to do it too far in case it breaks, but you can kind of see some flex here. That can sometimes shift and it might look like it's damaged or snapped. It probably isn't, but do be mindful of that because it is potentially something that could end up breaking. It's not the most sturdiest of things, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Now, the actual blade itself, now, again, on looks, the blade, if it's not so blurred, the blade portion looks very good. I would say nice black color as well, and it looks good in light too. You can see that. And of course, we've got the actual protruding bits here on the top side of the sword. That looks great. I'll show you the other side as well. And it looks fine, but I'm not sold on the sturdiness. It's quite flimsy. You can kind of see me holding it from the sword side. Let me just kind of show you that more like this. This is not me doing any filter. This is just me wobbling it in my hands. And I don't like that personally. It feels a lot like a kid's toy. You might argue, yo, this is a kid's toy. It's not really when you're paying the amount that we pay for S.H.Figuarts. It's not a kid's toy. So I don't know why they've gone with this flimsy approach for the figure. It's really strange. I don't like it personally. It looks fine. Like I said, it does look fine, but definitely something I don't personally like. And I hope, I do have the Renji figure. I hope they don't do this moving forward because it just feels a bit cheap. And yeah, it shouldn't feel cheap. S.H.Figuarts should be slightly more premium. Not super premium, but just better than whatever this feeling is. There are other concerns as well, that because it is quite flimsy here, you might see some drooping over time. So if you've got him kind of holding the sword, you can see a little bit of drooping. Actually, I'm trying to straighten it, but yeah, you can maybe see a little bit of drooping. You could argue that might happen with a more sturdy sword as well, just hard plastic. Yeah, there's pros and cons. I guess there's pros and cons, but this is not something I like personally. The material, I don't like. The way it looks, though, fine. I like the way it looks. That's fine. Now, in terms of getting it into the actual hand, that's not too bad. I do wish they made this a little bit more simpler and less kind of risky, because I find this is a little bit on the risky side. So I'm going to get his right hand. You've got to kind of feed the chain in here. Now, this is also why I prefer the instructions to be on a paper sheet, so I don't have to refer to a box. I believe this is what you got to do. Anyway, it works for me. Just feed the chain in. Try not to get the chain torn off, and then you should kind of be able to get that in. I've done it once before, so it should be okay. Now, this is where I said the guard might become an issue, because naturally, or for me anyway, when I'm putting the hand in, I'm going to start pushing here at the guard. But if you're pushing here, you can see the flex a little bit on the guard as well. So yeah, it's not the best thing how they've done this. So it's something that could have improved. And then, of course, when you're going to pull the hand off, the chain link, which of course I mentioned I like, gets in the way. So you might end up inadvertently pulling this off, and then you'll have to kind of fix that somehow. So there could be some small improvements to the way you attach the sword, and of course the material. So not the best sword in my opinion, even though it actually looks perfectly fine personally. So let's go into the faces, and then we'll talk about the figure. So first face is going to be, I think I actually swapped the default face over now. I can't remember now, but you can see he's got a slight smirk on that one. Otherwise, he's a little bit of a miserable sod. So we'll start with this one here. So here he's got a little bit of a scowl, and he's got a very solemn, disappointed look on him. He's just looking straight ahead, slightly curled eyebrows, and it looks fine. And his mouth, nothing's particular going on with his mouth, and it's fine. Pretty neutral, or almost quite serious expression on his face, and it looks fine. All his faces do look fine. The general scope and general application of the eyes and the eyebrow features, let's kind of zoom in and give you a better look, looks pretty good. We'll move on to the next face, which I do like. I think it's really cool that they added this one. So with S.H.Figuarts Naruto figures, we got the comical kind of look, but here we get a non-comical one, and instead we get the kind of shocked look when, say, he's missed an attack and someone just sneaks behind him, like a flash step or something. I really like this face. I think it looks really good, and there's really going to be some cool ways to use this face. So I'm glad that they included it. Again, the sculpt and the application looks pretty good. Then we come to his next face, which is this one. Again, pretty much scowling, this time with his mouth a little bit open. I do like this face personally. I think that's a strong face. I would have been fine if it was just this and maybe not the first face I just showed, which is this one. But it's fine. We've got those. And then we've got his yelling face, which again, application is all good. Sculpting is all good. And his mouth looks fine as well. His teeth look pretty good. And the inside of his mouth looks pretty good as well. So overall, pretty good on the faces. But they look a bit weird when they are attached, and I'll explain why once we jump into the figure, which we're going to do right now. So finally, we get onto the figure, and just standing there, he doesn't look too bad. So starting with the height, because that's something I'm terrible at mentioning in my normal videos, he stands at about 157 millimeters. That's 15.7 centimeters, inches, I can't remember now. But yeah, roughly just under 16 centimeters. Bring his legs a bit closer, he'll probably be 16, but I usually have him standing like this, so yeah, it'll be a bit shorter because of that. And of course, he looks okay, doesn't look too bad. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with this version of Ichigo when he's got this outfit on, and he's got slight markings on his neck, which we'll show in just a bit more detail soon. But otherwise, you can tell this is Ichigo. He's got his bright orange hair, sculpted pretty decently, I would say. Not the best, it's not my favorite by any means, and it's a little bit awkward to handle once you want to change his faces or even just pose him. We'll get to that in a bit, because you can kind of see a slight split here. So that kind of clues you in that that's how you change his faces. It's fine otherwise though, but I do think they could have done better. Maybe I'm just being nitpicky there. We've got his neck markings, call them markings there. So he's got that black thing that wraps around the back of his neck for this particular upgrade of his powers. But mine has a slight paint extra bit. So I got a slight extra bonus right there, which I couldn't scrape off. I'm pretty sure that's not part of his outfit, but there we go. That's my one. Let's call it a beauty mark or a bonus. And then we've got, what's his outfit called again? I looked it up. I'll put it on the screen. But we've got the pants, which is the hakama, and then the undergarment bit and the overgarment bit. I just can't remember the names of these things. But we'll start with his kind of outerwear bit, which looks fine. It looks okay. We've got some nice kind of wrinkled details in there and sculpting in there. It is on a rubber, I would say. It's got a little bit of flex to it. It's not super like heavy that you might have seen in the past, but it still isn't the best in my opinion. It's not going to make a lot of your action poses look super dynamic. They're still going to look a little bit stiff because of the stiff material, really. And this is just on a separate part down here. Let's bring his arms up a bit. You can see his arms here. He's got the white straps around the arms as well, and the forearms at least on both sides, which is fine. And then he's got the straps coming down across his chest, and then coming down on the inside of that is going to be white, whereas as we saw on the backside is pretty much all black. And then we come down to the bow tied around his waist, and then the hakama, I believe, the pants. So he's got the split pants, which this is where I knew I wasn't really going to like it for S.H.Figuarts, because just this style of pants is the same what Bring Arts did with Terra on their line of Kingdom Hearts figures. These pants just don't really work with hard plastic. I just think it just doesn't look good, especially like if it's not articulated. Yeah, sure, it looks fine, but because this is an articulated series of figures, it just looks weird, and I don't think there's any way around it if you're going to use hard plastic. The only possible solution is using fabric material, and I just don't see Bandai going that route. So they've gone the hard route, and I don't know if it's like, it's just for me, some weird reason, handling his legs felt like, I don't know, certain bars of chocolate, like a twirl. I don't know, some chocolate bar as a kid that I handled and used to melt in my hand. So that just kind of reminded me of that feeling. A little bit odd, I know, but yeah, they look a little bit odd. I think if you've got dim lighting on your display, it might not look too bad, but for me, I'm not sold on the pants, if I'm totally honest. I'm just not sold. We'll get into the bend and articulation, how it looks there, but we can see straight away, you know, it's already got the part there, or cuts, so it just looks a little bit broken. And then we come down to his tubby, his footwear, which they look fine, they look great. What I do really like though is that the legs, the calves are all white as well, and it doesn't just kind of go flat black inside here. So that's really cool, but there is no like joint here, so that's a missed opportunity, I feel. I think Yamaguchi or the Revoltech figures would have added the joint up here. They didn't, but still, I like the fact that it actually is just going all the way up to about here with my fingers pointing. So that's cool. It's cool. I'm fine with that. So overall, he doesn't look too bad, but one thing I also want to go back to on his faces, when I mentioned his faces look odd, is I feel, personally, this is just my opinion, I don't really like his faces. He just always looks like he's kind of bringing his chin in to his neck. And that's going to be the exact same thing for every single face. So that, to me, brings the figure down a bit, and he just doesn't look very cool because of it. If you tweak his pose just a little bit, it's fine. So I'm going to actually bring his face off just ever so slightly. I'm going to hold it there. So his face, just bring it out just a little bit like that, and it looks better. It just looks so much better. But when he's flush, he just always looks like he's just bringing his chin in too much, like the "Son, I'm disappointed" meme. So I don't know if that was intentional or just an accident, but I don't really like that, if I'm totally honest. But it's not the end of the world either way. But that's how he looks. He's pretty basic, actually, for one of the Bleach characters. I think he's probably one of the most basic looking ones. So there's not much more to say about it. I think he's fine, but not the best, not the coolest looking character as far as an S.H.Figuarts goes. So that's just my opinion. You can decide for yourself. Articulation wise, he's actually pretty good. He's not anything radically different from anything else, and he's not lost anything radically different that everyone should have. So his neck articulation is actually very good, even though he, like I said, brings his chin in so much. It's actually really good articulation. It looks down fantastic, and up is actually maybe where it struggles a bit. What I don't like is though, when you are playing around with his head, that can happen. I've kind of forced it there a bit, but it's just annoying that they've went with this route. I would have preferred if it was just pulling off his head. Oof, there goes his face. But yeah, let me get that. But let me finish. It would have been better if you just pull it off at the joint. Gosh, it took me ages to find his head. So there, that's a bit annoying when that happens. So finishing off, his articulation on the head is pretty decent. He's got decent elbow, or shoulder, I should say, articulation as well. So he can bring his arms quite far back, like so, nicely. So he can go for big giant sword swings, which is of course going to be very, very cool for him to have. He's got the bicep cup there, got the elbow bend, which is very good as well, so he can phone home nice and comfortable. And then the wrist is all pretty standard stuff as well, so that's pretty good. I do get a bit confused with his wrist actually and think it's going to be at this white bit, but it's actually not. But all good with the upper portion there. We come to the upper swivel, which is okay. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's not the worst either. You can lean slightly there, like there, and then I think it's just because the rubber or material here kind of hinders it ever so slightly. He's got the twist down below, like so. And then he can lean again, either way. So all good there. So again, he could do his giant swings and then kind of get his sword ready. Let's just assume he's got his sword there, but he hasn't right now. Then we come down to his legs. So his legs are quite similar to what we've seen before. It's a little bit awkward to do because of the big flariness of the Hakama pants. So here we go. So you can got the splits like so. A little bit of a twist there. You just have to kind of work it and fiddle with it there. And then you've got the twist at the upper thigh bit or the lower hips there. And then you've got the bend. The bends are actually not the worst thing in the world. Or maybe front facing is not the nicest thing either, but that's how it looks with the bend. And then, as I mentioned, he doesn't unfortunately have any articulation at the upper part of his calf, which I think would have been really good. And then, like, let's just assume his leg could move that way in and lean there. I just think it would look much more natural. So I'm a little bit disappointed they didn't add that. It's so strange they didn't add it. But otherwise, we just finish off, or nearly finish off, with the ankle, which has the rocker, swivel, and then the toe hinge. Like so. I really do actually like his tubbies. They look really good. The tubby and the sandals are really cool looking. And they look great as well. But it's just that little bit of lack of articulation which would have been really cool to have as an extra. But yeah, it is what it is. In terms of posing, you can get him into most kind of basic sword swinging poses and attack poses. It can be somewhat fiddly once you get around to the waist or leg portion because of the flare bit of his outfit and then the flare bit of his Hakama too. But let's just kind of assume, I'm going to attach his sword actually. Normally I just kind of dedicate a part just to swapping parts, but his sword is nothing. That's what he's got, right? So let's just quickly attach his sword and then pose him up very quickly. So remember, as I said, put the chain in there and then feed the sword in. We'll swap some heads as well. So this is a bit, I hope I don't damage anything on camera. It's always a risk doing stuff on camera because you end up sitting at a weird angle and then, yeah, you just potentially damage and break something, snap a peg here or there. So here we can just kind of assume, let's say he's going to go for, he's getting ready for a big giant swing. You can do that pretty easily. Change the face to what you want. So remember, with Bleach, these guys can be just fighting in the air as well, right? So anything kind of goes here. But let's just assume he's going for a giant swing, like so. This is actually where I found the flariness a little bit more annoying and wish he had that extra articulation as well, is when you want to pose his feet and you're trying to do it like this, you need to have like teeny weeny fingers to reach his feet. But yeah, you can see he can charge up a giant swing pretty easily. He looks fine. Balance is actually not the worst because the coat, let's say, can handle that a little bit. And then depending on how far it is, it might even balance him on the floor like a third leg or something like that. So it's actually not the end of the world. But yeah, it just looks a little bit stiff because it's just that soft, or not even super soft. But like, you get what I'm saying. It's that material that just makes things look a little bit more kind of, yeah, stiff, as I was mentioning. But generally speaking, he doesn't look too bad, as we can see right here. And then we can swap a face there. It just comes off too easy. You see, I just barely touched it and it just came off. I'm going to add his yelling face. Actually, no. Yelling face is too standard. Let's go with that. I just got snuck up on. I missed my attack. Got baited hard. Oh, sorry. You got to attach. Got to remove the hairpiece first. Let's do that. Let's add it in. Don't lose his head like I did foolishly. But I won't be surprised if you do. So, there we go. He's going to go for a swing, but then someone's just snuck up behind him. So that's how he's going to look. He looks pretty good, actually. This face is definitely going to be really handy, and I think people are going to get a real kind of, they're going to really make their display stand out with this kind of face. I think it's just slightly unusual to get something that looks that good and makes the character look a little bit on the kind of losing end. But this one is really cool. I love this face a lot. But you can see he looks pretty good, like so. Not much else to pose or change with him, to be honest. Play around with the poses, get him into actually going for sword swipes and whatnot. Pretty standard stuff, I would say. Plenty of anime and episode and chapter reference material to use with this guy. I'm going to keep him there just for the time being and quickly bring out the recent S.H.Figuarts Naruto that I did. And that's how he stacks with him. He's a tall guy, actually, now that I've just done that. But he is a kid, after all. I'm going to bring out the SHF Hatake Kakashi as well, like so. And that's all I've got at the moment without destroying the rest of my display, just to kind of give you a size reference of things and have some shonen bros hanging out. But that's Ichigo, or Kurosaki Ichigo from Bleach. Rounding it off then, this isn't my favorite figure so far, and it's not the worst figure in the world either. I'm not a huge fan of his outfit, but I don't know how much they could have really improved without changing it into completely fabric-based material. I wish they added extra articulation in the leg portion. I think that's a really golden opportunity to kind of make it look a little bit more natural. Not the end of the world, but wish they did that. I think his sword, though it looks very good, I hate the material. I really don't like the material on that sword, and I hope they never do that again with sword-based characters. I think his face and head sculpt needs slight tweaking. He just looks a little bit weird, and like I said, always brings his chin into his neck, so he just looks a bit stiff from that point of view. So there are some really important things, but small things that I think they can at least improve on for a 2.0, maybe sometime in the future. But either way, actually, I'm still looking forward to more Bleach S.H. Figuarts figures. And that's all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.